Yeah, hi guys. So welcome to the first ever podcast, Men Don't Talk United. So I'm glad to say I've got my boy. I'd say he's my best friend, to be honest with you. Of course, my name is Tendai. I'm the host of Men Don't Talk United. So I'd like San, if you want to just introduce yourself.
Hi guys, yeah, my name is Sanjeeva Kamilis. And I'm Tendai's best friend. And here we are, first podcast. Very excited stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So I thought, it'd be good. Obviously, I mean, when you and me first talked about doing this, it was just kind of like, yeah, it would be fun.
Yeah.
And then the day comes and we're like, okay, all of a sudden we're doing this. So as you know, Sad, I mean, part of us putting this thing together is just kind of just getting a platform together for men, just to, it's just something chilled. We're just, we could talk about whatever is bugging us. We could talk about sport, family, and all that kind of stuff. So I thought you and me, as a bit of a background. We go back a while. We go back a while, back in the uni days. We won't say
back in the 20s.
Back in the 20s.
It was.
We won't say what university that is, just for disclaimer purposes, because we don't want people going back and start asking questions. It's like, oh, we heard about these two guys. They say they used to play rugby here, so we'll leave it at that. So we're two guys that have known each other from universities. We've been best friends, and we just wanted to just kind of share a little bit about fatherhood.
We're talking best friends. We've been to each other's weddings. We're godparents to each other's children.
Exactly.
So this is a very close relationship, actually. Yeah. I consider
definitely.
you a brother more than.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, you were saying what to talk about.
So I was thinking, like, maybe we could talk a little bit about, like, maybe start off with about fatherhood and just kind of like how it was for you, sort of kind of the before and just after. If you just want to, like, maybe share a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my daughter was born in October, Dara. Tendai's the godfather. We as in life, a big thing that I've been talking about is what is preparing us for fatherhood. I mean, and what are the steps? We were all told from our parents, I don't know about you, T, but my parents certainly were like, get your studies, get a wife, become a dad. But there's no, and it's all well and good, I did my education, got a job, found my wife, and we got to trying to be parents, and I think that was the most difficult part, of the marriage. It's where you realize, you see where your relationship is actually, how far your relationship is willing to go. I mean, this. I mean, Tendo, we've spoken many times. Like Nourish, my wife and I, we had trouble conceiving at the beginning. It was tough, going through the whole process, and I think from a woman's perspective, especially not being, worried about to conceive naturally, it's quite intense. I felt as a husband that where I'm like, the pressures that they feel, it's enormous. I don't know what it is. Is this a society way? Because I know women have trouble conceiving. There are IVF treatments. There's all kind of treatments that for women to give birth to their own child. But that process was quite emotionally taxing on myself, because I'm a husband and I want my wife to have great things and to be able to have a child. But where I was struggling with, especially when we were trying to conceive, was how to support my wife as best as possible. Even the wrong thing you say, and I could be in trouble. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say, whether it's in a nice way. It could be conceived in the wrong way. I don't know whether you feel the same way. I don't know how you feel about that fatherhood part of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's. I think at the end of the day, you've got to make a decision about what's best for you, isn't it? and your wife. But yeah, I think everybody's journey is different, and I think this is one of the issues why we like putting this together, because it's like people may not necessarily know the journey that somebody has gone through and stuff. So you know, so yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think also what's important is that part of going through that journey is like making, not saying that you made a mistake or anything like that, but it's just like you're going to have to go through that particular journey yourself so you can find out about yourself, about yourselves, or find out what works and doesn't work. But but I think what's also important is because you mentioned maybe about like talking with your parents, or maybe like your relationship with your parents. So kind of, did you feel like a lot of that you had to sort of go through that yourself, like being as a man, and kind of like no one really there to guide you, sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm of Asian background, and it's sort of like, you try and talk to you try and talk to your parents, and they're laughing, and they're like, oh, this is married life, and that to me is not helpful. Like, I need someone to sit down and say, son, look, or it's going to be tough, financial situation, and then you go to buying a house. But then when you talk about parenthood, like, parents laugh, or they're like, well, this is what I had to go through. That's great. Like, I understand that you have to go through it, but you need to help me go through this process, because I have no idea what is right, what is wrong. And yes, it is part of, being a father, like, is part of learning the journey yourself. So, it's your own child, obviously, but parents not allowed, like, it's just like, oh, my daughter doesn't sleep through the night. Oh, what did you expect? I'm like, I get it.
That's life.
And it's that's pretty much it. It's life. Yeah. But then you're the ones that told me that this is life, but you're not ready to prepare me for life. Like, that's the difficulty. Like, as an Asian person, there might be parents out there who are more understanding and more supportive of their children, and know how to, talk to their children. And I'm not singling my parents out either. Like, they're not bad parents. But it's just a feeling of being, you're a father now, and you're essentially like an island on your own, trying to deal with everything by yourself, with no one to soundboard off of. Whereas you've got to be the soundboard to your wife. You now got to be a soundboard and understanding of your son or daughter. These are the things that I was just like, I have no idea. I had to learn how to talk to my wife and not get angry and be selfish. I had to learn to, when my wife is actually feeling low, some days she doesn't sleep at all. It's taxing on that brain, on their mental health, and she's just wanting to rest. And the smallest mistake you do, things could blow up in your face, and you're arguing for a couple of hours. While trying to be there for your child. So preparation is essential, I think. Like, having that conversation, having that understanding to where you could be as a father, to the best you can be as a father. So, like, I've spoken to you about a few things. I've spoken to other friends who are fathers before me, and for example, I've spoken to you about how long does it last for like your wife to be angry with you or upset or emotional. You've told me it takes a good 1 year, and then my other friends have said, you're always going to be last on the list, and that's fine. That's great, because I've spoken to you guys, I've spoken to my friends who are fathers, and they're like, you have to get in your mind that you have to be your bottom of the list. In fact, you're nothing to your wife. Your wife is, as far as she's concerned, is the child is number one. My emotions and my feelings have no comprehension in her mind. I'm like, so you're like an island. You have to make sure you're mentally okay as a father, to deal with what's coming in the day, and that's even including supporting your wife. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Tendai, like it has been a hard journey to becoming a father, but I've loved every minute of it. I don't know if you could agree to that. I mean, I can see that in you.
Yeah. I mean, I think with regards to the cultural norms, because obviously you're of a Sri Lankan background. You're married to a Canadian, a wife, a Sri Lankan Canadian. You know, I'm a Zimbabwean. I'm a British Zimbabwean with a West Indian father. So already in that, there's a lot of complexities culturally in just how men talk about things. You mentioned obviously you and me have got that relationship where, you know, we can ask each other honestly, and just trying to make the viewers of this understand that, you know, the relationships between men and women are obviously very different. The things men talk about are quite selective, whereas maybe the things that women talk about may be selective to a degree, but they do have that open book kind of, you know, philosophy. And I know a lot of women will probably be watching this and be like, I'm not sure I agree with you, and that's fine. We welcome women as well to come and share their opinions, and I will give women the opportunity to do that, because it's a platform for men, but we want to know what women think about the way men share things. And I think, like you said, there's that cultural thing where it's like my dad or my Zimbabwean parents, you know, from the mom's side, don't necessarily talk to you about this kind of thing. You'd expect to have that relationship with your dad or some kind of father figure where you talk about these things. So we can talk to the end of the earth about masculinity and men, but you've kind of highlighted it there, because as men, we're meant to be, we're the leaders. And to a certain degree, I know that this will be different with some cultures, but in some of our cultures, at least, that's the way, or that's the way we perceive it, because a lot of the times the women do look up to the men in terms of that protective sort of figurehead. So it's like, for me, when I look at like my relationship with my wife, we've been married, I think it would be 10 years in September, and it's like when I look at before, like when we were dating, and then just after we got married, it was like I wasn't fully honest with her with everything. I was very, very selective with how I was honest. And to be honest with you, a lot of the times I just did stuff that I just wanted to do without necessarily asking her. But as that relationships has grown, and this marriage has gone to 10 years, you know, I started opening up quite a bit. And people might hear that and think, whoa, but like 10 years? Like, you've been married 10 years and you're still trying to open up a few things? And I would say yes, and that's purely because I didn't have that relationship with my dad or my parents that just kind of let you, like, taught you about some of these things, just to kind of give you that guidance to say, do you know what, when you get married or when you're dating, it's going to be like this. Or when you get to maybe 5 years might be like this. Or even it's just a conversation where it's like, look, it's okay to be open and it's okay to be emotional. But coming from the cultures that we and you come from, like, it's not really like that. So, and I know a lot of people are going to be watching this are going to be like of different backgrounds, and they're either going to relate and they're going to be like, whoa, it's totally different in my background. But there's just this thing about men that's just like, we're not built to be naturally emotional or to naturally let things open. But then when I look at the relationship with my daughter is 4 years now. She's 4 years old. And it's like, for me, I will stop. I will go to the ends of the earth, you know, for this girl.
That's right.
Like, it's like, I don't know how that's come about, but I've got more of a emotional understanding of her as a child or as a person, or that's going to grow up to be an adult. And it's like, for me, I realized how important it is to be emotionally connected to her, even though I didn't have that emotional connection with my dad. I don't know what it is. I mean, call it, you know, 21st century norms or modernism, or I hear this thing about modern family and all that stuff.
Let's talk about this way, okay? You know, we talk about maternal instincts from a mother. one thing I have learned, as you just hit the nail on the head, like I have learned, we have maternal instincts, believe it or not. You know, I mean, I'm exactly the same feeling as you. I have an intuition with my daughter. When she knows when I'm upset, and I know when she's upset. You know, so that instinct would never have. Yeah, you're right. It would never have come about. But it's good to know that, and this is what other het fathers, I hope to know, who are listening, and to other young men who are going to be fathers or want to be fathers. We have actual maternal instincts, paternal instincts.
Yeah, paternal.
And yeah, paternal instincts, not maternal, paternal, and it kicks in for us from the moment your child is born. The responsibilities from when you see your son or daughter. When my daughter came out, and it not only did the whole like birth process it blew my mind, Tendai. Like truly, just I couldn't sleep for at least 48 hours because I just kept having flashbacks of that time of when my daughter was born, and from that moment everything kicked in. There was love. There was, I've got to do something. You know, I've got to make sure I'm prepared. There's also, I've got to make sure my wife is happy. It just, I don't know, it just flooded straight in. And that to me wasn't something my parents discussed with me. That just, from that moment, kicked in. And I think you're absolutely right. We have to show, we're at a day and age where, as fathers, we have to show our emotions to our kids. And it isn't just about working and earning extra money and providing. Those are just what you need to do. But having that emotional relationship with your daughter, it could lead to a fact that your daughter and you could have an open relationship where she doesn't have to be selective on the information she provides to you.
Yeah.
As we have learned that we have to provide selective information. I mean, you're right. It's not like there are certain things you don't really tell your wife all the time. Like you try and open, you know, from when we were growing up. I think you're right. Generational point, even 21st century. You know, we've evolved as human beings. We've evolved. I can even say, like, you know, you look at how men are perceived. We're considered monkeys, just essentially. Like that's the way you look at it. We're not smart, but really, we are starting to be emotionally intelligent as well, and that is a progressive thing for us. I think. You can't do us any harm.
Yeah, and would you say? I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but would you say you've got a different emotional, how I say, reaction or emotional aptitude between, like, say, between Dara and between I'll say your wife's name, Narisha. Do you feel like there's? I kind of know what the answer's going to be like to this, but would you say there's a different level of emotional attachment or emotional what's the word I'm looking for in terms of relating or offloading?
Yeah, like what you're trying to say is there like a variation of what I emotionally give to Nourisha and what I emotionally give to Dara? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it. I'm not a perfect human being. I'm not, but like a mother would think of their child, like Nourisha, she's like, her focus is my daughter, and I'm completely agreeable to that. But it's the same way for me. My focus is not. It's there for Nourisha. There is a percentage for Nourisha, and I would do my best for my wife.
Yeah.
But like you said, I will go to the end of the earth for my daughter. Yeah. I will move heaven and earth. I will, I don't know, move cars, lift airplanes. I will do anything for my daughter. Yeah. It is not that I don't. It's not that I wouldn't do those things for my wife. I just feel like that connection, and sometimes it is my reaction. You know, when Dara might annoy me a little bit, you know, I might be tired and she's crying and she doesn't want to sleep and I get irritated. Yeah. You know, I wouldn't lose my temper. Whereas if, you know, sometimes I might just tell Nurse to be quiet for a minute. I don't try and do that to Dara because I don't want her to be fearful of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
I
I think the reason, and I think the reason I say that is, again, it's just trying to make people understand that I'll be watching this. I'm hoping a lot of women be watching this, as much as men. But it's getting them to get a bit more insight into how that emotional relationship works, because I know my wife, she's had her struggles with her dad. And I know, like we're talking about as men that are fathers to girls, we've understood the importance of emotional connection or emotional sharing, if you like, with our daughters. Whereas if I look at the relationship between my wife and her dad, like they really struggled. And so I think it's important in trying to make people understand is that with our wives, we feel a little bit different because we've developed a relationship with a woman much later in life. So it's like when you're building that relationship, it's just kind of like it's more of a role, isn't it? In terms of, and how I mean by that is just kind of the husband and wife is different to the father and daughter. So when I look at it, the relationship between me and my wife, they are things I wouldn't necessarily be inclined to share straight away. I mean, I'll give you an example. Sometimes we'll have, whether it's an argument or disagreement, and then it will just kind of, it won't get settled. So either one of us knows that the other's upset. So it's kind of, that's it. I'll speak about myself, is I would tend to just go into a recluse or recluse, whatever you call it, and just immediately, not shut down, but shut down. Yeah, it's just like, well, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Or if it's regarding my emotions specifically, it's probably because I don't know how. It's probably because I'm upset. Straight, I'm really upset and I'm really annoyed. I'm probably really angry, so I don't want to talk about it there and then. And then there's also the emotional side. So when it's like deep issues regarding emotional things, I don't feel naturally inclined to share it straight away, whereas she wants to go into it there and then, and I just feel like this is going to get worse. And to be fair, and I think a lot of people in relationships will attest to this, is that there's this not necessarily a Jekyll and Hyde relationship, but more of like what do they call it? Good cop, bad cop. But not in the strictest sense of that example. But I just mean in terms of, there's always the good person that's going to want to just talk about it and get everything on the table and just say, okay, now let's talk about it, let's get it out. Then there's the bad cop, which is, surprise, probably me most of the time. It's just like, that's it, I don't want to talk about it. I'll talk about it when I want to, and that's it. I'll go and shut down. And most of the times, it's her coming to speak to me. And this is something I've struggled with for a while, and even to an extent, I still struggle with it. But I'm still learning, even after 10 years of marriage, of just like, okay, we've got to nip this in the bud. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore who's wrong. Even though to me, it still feels like it's important who was wrong, but it's just like, it's that peace element, and it's going to her and just say, you know what, I'm sorry. These are the reasons why I said what I said. But even that's still a struggle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you, hand over heart, like Nurse and I had an argument even about a month ago, and we went crazy, and I just wanted to get out. I can't just talk about it and get nothing resolved. So I'm just like, this is irritating me now. So I've just got to go. Yeah. But then I've learned over the even years, like you said, you've been with your wife, Helen, for over 10 years, and I've been with Nourisha coming up to just over 5, but been together just as long as you guys have been married. And the thing I've learned about it is that you're absolutely right. The longer we keep shut down, the argument doesn't go away. It just comes back 10 days later, and it takes longer to overcome. I had that argument probably lasted half a day, and then after I resolved, I mean, let's just like that, that's what could happen, right? Like, we can have an argument and it could last half a day, and then what happens is I'll say I'm sorry, or I'll just talk it out and get it over and finished. But then within an hour later, you know, I've wasted half a day because of arguing with you. So, you know, you can't win, really. So what I've done is, and I've come, you know, I've had to put it in my brain, because it's another thing that's not instinctual for me, is to just let's get this talk over and done with, because you lose half a day talking, we're arguing, I'm upset, we resolve it midway through, like over halfway, so the day is pretty much done. So any plans that you had to do is essentially wasted. So who's the winner here? There is no winner or loser. But there is the idea of a lost day where you could be done doing something productive. You know, and I think as well, you know, what I think is that we, as becoming a father, is making sure that I maintain a good relationship with Nourisher, and not just for the sake of Dara, but for the sake of our marriage as well. Because you know, having a child puts everything about the relationship on the back burner.
Perspective, yeah.
You know, you don't just put your own feelings away. You put in your partner's feelings away, and they're doing the same for you. And then your relationship is going to end up in different directions. And, you know, we've had COVID, so it has been a bit difficult to just have a little bit alone time with my wife. But we've had to, you know, I've had to do a couple of surprise dates at the house, you know, because...
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you... Yeah, I mean...
Can you tell us a bit more about these surprise dates, or can you share your tips and other budding... I just if Nourisher is listening to this, she's going to be like, "That's an idiot." Did you take her to a rugby game? Your surprise date.
From watching it from the TV. No, for example, you know, I threw a surprise like we just had a barbecue.
Nice.
We had plans for dinner, and I was just like, you know what, I've got a couple of steaks. She put Dara to sleep, and I had started the barbecue. We cooked a couple of steaks. We had some salad, had a glass of wine, just on the balcony or in the kitchen, like in our dining table, just so that we can actually talk, just so that there's no TV, there's no, you know, we're still keeping an eye on Dara, and we're still going, you know, to go and make sure she's okay. But in that time, there's no TV, there's no radio, there's no phones even. Like, we try and talk. You know, and over COVID as well, we played a couple of card games, you know, just to spend some time together, you know, like, it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. I mean, you know, of all people, you know, it's not easy. But at the end of the day, another thing we're not taught. It's not in our DNA to think of these things. I've had to learn, you know. I've had to listen to Nourisher to say, look, she doesn't spend time with me. She misses me. I had to take those words, and although it upsets me, I have to do something about it. I have to show her that she's very important to me. It's not just about Dara.
I mean, I mean, you've hit a point. You've hit the nail on the head, because I always feel like for me, I'm quite organized, and I'm not saying my wife isn't, but I'm really organized to the point where I always feel like my job is looking after the family. So it's looking after the house, and just playing my role as a father figure. I mean, obviously Helen has her role that she plays as well. But from an organizational point of view, I always think of my family as first priority, as you should. And I know that's something that her sisters say they always appreciate about me, that you always put your family first. And I think in a way that has meant that the emotional attachment, I mean, I tell my wife I love her, you know, we have our moments where obviously it's just between us, you know, as a loving couple should be. And my first priority is always okay, have we taken care of the finances? Have we taken care of the cars? What needs fixing around the house? And that's when I go earlier to what I was talking about in terms of the DNA that's been instilled with us culturally. That's the masculinity. That's the man should always go out and work and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and I feel like
yeah.
that has been an easy teach from my parents. That's been the things that you saw. And you're like, okay, yeah, no, this is what a man does. And so the emotional side, the emotional side is not something that we spend a lot of time with. And I still give my wife that emotional stuff, if you want to call it that, because I still want to be connected to my wife emotionally. So it's I immediately know that I'm not the best, but I know that I'm doing a lot better than what my parents did. So when this issue of like men don't talk, it's because maybe a lot of the times we feel we're showing it through what we're doing, and it's not just okay, we've had an argument, or somebody's died in the family, say for example, and it's like, well, why are they not talking about it? Why are they not reaching out to their friends and just say, you know what, I could really use a day out either on the golf course and stuff? It's just because we're not programmed to be that way. And I don't know what you think in terms of whether you think that's something that's changeable, or it's probably something that's always going to be there.
I can't talk for others, but for me personally, I feel like I've changed on that sense. A little bit. I try, and it actually for me, it's very important that I talk to Nourisher about my emotions, because I've lived so long that I haven't been able to speak to my emotions. It's actually had an adverse effect on my mental health. So if I don't do it, if I don't talk to Nourisher on an emotional level, if I don't tell her how I feel, honestly, it leads to a road where both of us lose again. In that situation where I will just lose, I won't care, I will shut down, I won't bother, and Nourisher will just be upset, and I wouldn't care. So it's important that for me, and that's something I've learned that I've had to change as a person. Maybe other men also in same circumstances need to change that, need to develop, need to find out how to recalibrate their mind to be able to talk about things. Because we're a species, our species, the male species, we are programmed to bottle everything in, put it in a box, put it in our stomach, and throw it in the middle of the ocean. That's how we're programmed. You're right. My dad's the same. He doesn't talk. There's no. It is just no. Yeah, even when I talk to my dad, I can't speak to him on an emotional level.
Yeah.
And with everything in the world that's going on in terms of equality within us, and I'm a big advocate, on equality, but for us men as well to be seen as equal, we need to open up emotionally. We need to let our most trusted advisors in. We love The Godfather. Look, The Godfather has an advisor who he tells everything to. Everything in our lives show that we need advisors. We need someone we trust close to impart our problems. We have our friends, which is great, but as you said at the beginning, it's selective information we reveal. With the ideas of social media now as well, I just want to bring that in. It brings a little bit more strain on how we talk and what we can talk about, what we can put out on there. So having that emotional connection is actually vitally important, and allowing to be your wife or to be your partner is really important. I think we can change. We've changed as a generation of men. So what's stopping us? Are we incapable of evolving? I don't necessarily believe that. And I don't believe anybody is impossible of changing their mindset to a positive mindset. It takes hard work. It is not easy. If I have a son, I don't want him to think my dad's a big old softie, but I don't want him to think my dad's a hard nut as well. I want to be hard on the outside, soft on the inside, if that's the case.
Yeah.
But it's also showing my son. I mean, as you said, you're doing better than your father. I hope to do better than my father, but that's the whole point, right? Your daughter should be doing better than us.
Yeah.
That's how evolution works.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That's a great question. Like we should be able to change. We need, actually, as a man, I would like to say we need to change a little bit.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
We're in a, we're in a generation where divorce is actually acceptable, separation is acceptable, and I'm not condoning that. But you still, as a man, even if you're in that situation, you still need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
You still need someone to let out that emotion, because it's not easy. It's not easy being a single parent. It's not being a separated parent. It's not easy living in this day and age for any human being. And I don't want that to Dara to struggle emotionally either. Or if I have a son, I don't want him to struggle.
Yeah. I think that's quite important. I think also like obviously like how we're friends, and then how our wives are also close friends has helped, because it's kind of like and not to make it sound like there's like, whenever there's an issue like with me or you or with Narisha or Helen, that something's always going to come out, but there almost feels like there's this kind of indirect accountability, that it's like like if I'm going through something, I mean, you're likely to find out, one, either because I'm going to tell you, or because Helen's going to have a conversation with Narisha, and it's just kind of like it becomes open. But I think because there's that relationship dynamic as well, it allows like us as men like to talk about it, because if it's like if there's something happening with me, I'd like to think 8 out of 10 times or 9 out of 10 times I'm probably going to speak to you about it at some point. You're going to know something's happened, and it's like having that platform where it's easy to share. And I'm not saying that because we're both married, that say single people or single men might not have that same outlet. And it's difficult when you're single, because when you're single, you're not going to have the kind of problems. You're not going to have the kind of problems in terms of sharing emotions, because it's just you. But also, it's also still quite important because you're single. So it's kind of like, who do you go to? And I think having the emotional accountability is quite important. So even if it's just finding someone, and it's hard because we've all been there before as single guys, to find someone that you can talk to. And most of the times because I remember when I was single, it was like, when you and me were playing rugby at the same union, at the same club, it was like, when we were single, it was just like, well, you show up on the day, you play rugby, and then afterwards you just go and you share a few jokes.
Have a drink, have a joke,
and you're out. Something might have happened before that you might not have shared, that you think, oh, maybe this might have been that opportunity to share it, but it just doesn't feel like the time. For you, you're there, you're playing rugby. That's your escapism. So as far as you're concerned, you're doing what you love. And for me, to a certain extent, even as a dad and as a husband, I still have that outlet. So at the moment, it's either playing touch rugby or it's playing golf, because I feel like for me, that's my time to like not internalize everything, but everything that's internalized, to try and figure out how you want to bring it. And it's not to say you go out there on the rugby course or on the golf course and you think, okay, I'm having this issue, what's the best way to bring it out? For me, it doesn't happen that way. For me, just coming out of the environment that I'm in and going somewhere that's totally different allows me to come back with a fresh mind. And 9 out of 10 times, I've had situations where I've gone out, even if it's just not to golf, just gone out for a walk or gone out for a drive, gone to the shop or whatever, and maybe me and the missus have talked about something, or we had an argument, and someone just tells me, you know what, I just need to suck it up. I need to go back to the missus and I need to tell her why I was wrong and why I'm feeling the way I was feeling. But as men, it's always going to be difficult because it's something that's not easy for us to just bring out just like that, because our ladies want us to do it. we've got a different way of dealing with it. So I don't know if you agree. I don't know if what you found is your.
I mean, I do agree. I mean, going back to the point where like our wives are friends as well. I know Larisha has spoken to Helen when we were at the beginning of our trying to conceive Dara. I know that Larisha spoke to Helen. You know, you're right, and it's actually it's very good. I find that we're blessed. Actually, we have got wives that get on so well that they can talk like that because you know, it's another sounding board for them. But it also, yes, as you said, like you and I don't need to talk. We don't talk about emotional things all the time. But if you are going through a tough place, if you are going through a tough place, and Nurusha says, "Oh, you know," Helen says Tendai is having a bit of a tough time. You know, it gives me an opportunity just to check up on you, and I might not say what's drawing you out, but it's nice for me just to see how are you getting on, and if you do, it gives you an opportunity to let me know. But it also tells me not to push you either. Like it still keeps our friendship intact. You know, there have been times where you and I haven't spoken for maybe a good few weeks. And Nurusha goes to me, you know, have you spoken to Tendai? I went, oh no, is everything okay? She goes, yeah, but I was just talking to
exactly.
Helen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know,
it's just happened that way. It's just like it's not by. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah. And then she goes, yeah, but maybe you should give him a call. And we're like, oh, right, okay. You know, and even when we meet, when we get to meet, it's, you know, you and I try and organise it, but we kind of like flail off after. You know, it's always, we're going to ask the wife. So why bother us trying to organise it? Well, let's just go with the wives. And it's been good because they're allowing our relationship to continue as well, which has been great because I'll be honest, without you, some of the things we've spoken about, you know, how to be a father, what am I going to be expecting, toughness of when we were trying to conceive, you know, without discussing those things with you, I don't know what situation I would be in, to be quite honest. That, and as a man, you're right, like, we are not programmed, again, we're going back to that point, but we are not programmed that way, but we have to change. And if that opportunity where our wives have become friends and to allow us to maintain a good relationship, show that kind of, you know, I only have a handful of friends. I don't actually have more than 5. And actually, when you count of how many friends of mine are married, actual friends of mine, so you would be one, and maybe 3 more, exactly 4. So, and I spoke to pet fathers who are my wife's friends, family friends, and cousins and husbands, and whatever. That way, it's on that side. But on my side, you're actually the only one that I can talk to in terms of, you know, we are the same. We are going through the same things. You had a daughter, I have one. You got married, I got married. You know, and that connection, that communication that they have, really does play an impact on our relationship as well. I'm not saying that we wouldn't be friends if our wives weren't friends. It just makes it a little easier, I think. A lot easier, actually. You know, if Helen didn't like me or didn't like Nurusha, how often would we be seeing? You know,
probably not.
The same way. No, exactly. Because the truth is, you go and see me and Helen doesn't like me, she's going to be sitting in the car going, how stupid is Sam, you know?
Or it'll be quite awkward. But I mean, as you say, like it's I think it's safe to say, like, from yourself, I mean, I find you as somebody that's you don't have an issue with like sharing, like, you know, talking about what might be an emotional subject. Obviously you mentioned about, you know, the bit that when you and Risha were trying to conceive and stuff. So it's like, you know, you kind of came to me and we had that conversation, and I remember that conversation. So it was kind of, you know, that was something that for you felt like you could easily share. So, you know, for some people it might be totally different. And I was trying to think about it in terms of like how you and me kind of share those kind of emotions. And it's a bit like a rugby team. Sorry for the analogy and for the people that are watching and listening, but it's literally like a rugby team that's maybe not performing very well in terms of their weekly results. and then like maybe after a few games, you know, they come back and, you know, they have a really good game. So it feels like for us, it's like it's not necessarily a frequent thing, but there'll be opportunities when, okay, like a day I feel like, right, I'm gonna talk to him about it, and I'm gonna let him know what the issue is. We may not necessarily talk about everything, and I'm not saying women do talk about everything, but it is kind of up and down, and it's kind of it's a feeling that comes about. It's a feeling that comes about as and when. So you know, that's how it is.
We have a team ethos, you and I, both being rugby players, and you know, vital thing which we've been part of a winning team as well. And one thing we both still learn is that communication is key in those games. We played some tough games together, and communication.
Really
I mean, and we've both realised communication is key, and we've also seen the division, what can happen between a team when it's divided in certain ways, and how it can affect on the rugby pitch. So like that, you're right. You know, it's important that we're a team. We're essentially a team to be able to communicate to each other, just to make sure that our game as fathers
is always on point.
Is improving.
Yeah,
it's always on point, and there's always room for improvement. So I learn things from you, and I hope you learn things from me. But I definitely learn things from you when I talk to you. So it's sort of like, okay, Tendai does something different. Let me try what he's doing. Let me see if I can learn his way and see if it works. If it doesn't, I can tweak it, or I can find a middle ground, because the way I'm trying to do something isn't working. But I agree with you on that. Like, and again, it's important that wives communicate with each other as well.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully this is kind of giving people like a bit of an insight and stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people that are going to see this are going to be like people that you and me know, and I hope it gets that conversation going, or even maybe just gives them a little bit of understanding. I mean, obviously this is the first podcast, so we you know what, we might even get people that maybe want to know a bit more about certain points. We might need to come back and revisit some of the things that we talked about. But in terms of like, if there was just like one like piece of advice that you would give, like whether it be another a guy that's maybe struggling with his emotions and stuff, or even a single guy, whatever, what would you, is there one thing that you say that maybe that you have learned that might help unlock that emotional key, if you like, that another man is dealing with? If there's, and it could be anything, it's just maybe...
You know, there is one piece of advice. Everyone is having problems, but a problem shared is a problem dealt with, as it was. I forgot the saying. Like, one thing I've learned is that, you know, everyone has issues. There's not, but you should find one person you trust, one person you truly love, to let you talk about your emotions with. But
it's really
it doesn't
important.
mean, and don't feel bad for unleashing your problems, because they have problems too. So maybe you can help that other person with their problems. You know, we're just so focused as human beings, as men, or as parents. We're just focused within ourselves, and sometimes it's not good.
Yeah,
it's not good to keep it in. And I urge that anybody, of all the people, however many people listening, whether it be 5, 10, 2, if you're feeling struggle, if you're worried, you're stressed, talk to someone. It's really important. They can give you a different way to look at something and may be able to help you, and you could help them. And that feeling of understanding and trust, it will make you. It will actually genuinely feel good. So
and I think that's a good one, because I think people struggle with, and I know I've struggled with it, is the how to. Because it's like, you know you're going through this thing, and like recently, well, not too recently, but recently enough, obviously I had a bereavement in the family that you know about, and it was like, you know what, like the picking up the phone and calling you, or calling, I don't know, any one of my friends saying, look, you know, actually, I really need a time out. Like, can we do something or anything like that? It just wasn't at the forefront of my mind, because it's like you're dealing with this thing, this grief or whatever, and you're just trying to process it. And for my wife, I don't know how she does it, because as I said earlier, it's like I started getting calls from her friends. Is she all right? Anything you need, you know, da 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 da, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, how was she able to share all that information? Like, how was she strong enough to let all her friends what was going on, and then like carry on? Because like for me, the first instinct is not to tell all my friends. Like, it's just I've got to deal with this. And I think maybe it was that mindset of being like a man that's just like, I've got to deal with it. And I'm learning slowly from her. And I don't know, it's just one of those things. It's just like I've got to get it into me that like it's okay just to like pick up the phone and just say like, yeah, no, mate, I'm not in my best today. And then even allowing your friends to just be like, okay, cool, I'm coming over, I'm gonna come pick you up, we're gonna go play golf, or we're just gonna go to the park, kick a few rugby balls. And I know, without even doing it or asking for it, that I know it's gonna make me feel heaps better. But it's just not the first thing that comes to mind. So as you say, it's finding a way to like internalize that, or like, not remove it from being internalized, kind of out in the open, and just saying, right, I know I need to speak to somebody, so I'm going to pick the phone. But I know this happens because even like with mental health, and we're going to have podcasts where we talk about like mental health and how people deal with it and stuff. But I know that's also an issue. It's just, you know what you need to do, but doing it is just so much harder. And in a way, I can kind of understand why so many people suffer from it from a mental health perspective, because there's just this it's almost like a feeling of just like drowning, and you're just like literally just trying to climb your way back up, and you can't do it. So it's that how to is just so difficult. Like you and me talking about it now, it's easy to talk about it, but when you're in that situation, there's just something that's just so overcoming about the whole situation. And you're like, how the heck do I do it? But I feel like my wife does it a lot better than I do.
I mean, this is again, fundamentally, we are wired a different way. But as I go, like, you've expressed, like, you question how to change it. It's easy for us to talk. Let me put it to you this way. You know, if something happened in your house, you would deal with it immediately, right? But how come how come you should think of it like this. How can you say you're going to deal with something in the house immediately, like something needs repaired, but something in your brain needs repaired, but you're not willing to deal with it immediately? Right? And as a man, yes, we are programmed that way, but the truth is that repair is that if you don't repair that as quickly as possible and keep it, and if you don't, it will get severe damage. Just like if you don't fix the problem at the house, the damage is going to get worse, and you will have bigger repairs. So that is what I'm saying to you. Is how do you feel about that? How can you change that? You're willing. If you have a crack in the wall, and you're willing to go to B&Q to go and repair that, why can't you go and speak to someone? Why can't you go and speak to the GP? What's preventing you that? And that's where your mindset needs to change. That's where you need to turn the switch and be like, hang on a minute, if I don't deal with this, it's going to affect. And let's be honest, if it affects you, it will affect your wife, it will affect your daughter, it will affect your son, it will affect your parents. The truth is, if you do not deal with your mental health issues, if you do not have that understanding that other people are there for you, right? And how can you be the same? How can you do the same? How can you understand what another person is going through if you're not willing to talk about your own feelings? Yeah. Are we, like, essentially, we cannot afford to, we're hypocrites in a way. And men can be seen as hypocrites. And I don't want to have that label because I don't want to be seen as a hypocrite. I don't know about you. I mean, I certainly don't like that identity as men as hypocrites because, you know, in the world we live in, equality is becoming a big issue, and we're talking about men earning more than women. You know, men having more. There are more men CEOs. How can we live when we as men actually want our wives to do better in life? You know, that's how I can't live with that label. I don't know. People, like, for me, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I don't like it. So if I have to change my mental thinking to try and talk to my wife or to talk to anybody, even if you're best, for me, to talk to you, I've got to be able to say, look, this is like a wall in the house. There's a crack. It needs to be fixed ASAP.
Definitely.
I think that's what we need to look at as men. And I hope from this podcast, this opens more discussions for us to talk about.
Yeah. Well, as you say, I mean, it's been good just to kind of get that initial conversation out of the way, and you know, I'm sure we're going to talk more about these kind of things and just begin to, you know, unpack some of the issues. And I'm just, you know, it's just hopefully it just helps others. Hopefully it helps ourselves kind of talking about it, because this is an education for us as well, you know, because we want our kids, our children to be able to look back at this and just be like, yeah, you know, I'm proud of my dad. You know, he challenged some serious taboos and stuff. And it's like, I mean, let's be honest. The reason why we're both here and why we're doing this is because we want to be the best dads and the best husbands that we can be. So, you know, so I just want to thank you for coming on and, like, you know.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
But it had to be done. It's like, you know, you and me. I mean, obviously this is something that you and me are doing together.
I've spoken about it, yeah.
We're going to do more of these. You know, there's going to be things about sports, cute all the ahs from people watching and stuff. So so thanks a lot, man, for bringing your insight. I know that your time is a bit tight and all that kind of stuff, but just to be able
it's been great.
to get this kicked off. So, you know, I just want to obviously let the viewers know that this podcast is the first, as I've just said. So you can check us out on Instagram, YouTube. So all the full videos obviously will be on YouTube. That's for you to know as well, Sam. The full videos hopefully will be on YouTube, and then obviously on social media we're just gonna share on there as well. So guys, look out for more content. Thanks a lot for joining, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Peace.
See you guys soon.